This is We All Be, news-free Dixie for the 21st century. See how it works? Somewhere. Can you dig it?
And so just want you to know. Man, I looked at that smile on your face just now. And the first time I ever wished I was a photographer to take that picture and let the world see that honesty and that integrity. And know some of the things I know, how you drive all over the country to chase us down. Chase us down. Okay? We move so fast. I don't know if you're married. I don't know if you're a family. I don't know if you're a wife. Okay? But when we get on here, we bosom friends. Anytime I see you, I stop whatever I'm doing. Hey, my man, how are you? Hey. Hey, man, what, that's, I owe that to you. It's an obligation that you have. How old are you?
Oh, 36.
So you don't have the right to do what 36 people do. You don't have the right to go to the dance or go to the party. You don't have a right to take that trip to Europe when I might need that plane fare to fly somebody else. Feed my people that love you. Mm-hmm. You feed them. Oh, it's one thing being hungry from food. Right. There's another thing being hungry for information.
That's right.
And that's you, the feeder. You got to be the farmer. You got to grow the crop. Huh? You got to till the grain. And at nighttime, when you hear something that sounds like water, you got to go and see if the crop's going to be flooded. That's your job, man.
Hey, everybody, this is Brother Ron. I am asking you all to do me a big favor. Think about supporting the We All Be movement. Your donation is tax deductible. The We All Be Group Incorporated is a recognized 501c3. And I'm just asking you all because I want to keep on bringing y'all quality work through the way that I know how to do best. And I'm going to sing my praises and toot my horn. A lot of y'all were not hearing a review we did. Y'all seen another side of Judge Joe Brown, and Judge Joe Brown's message has been amplified. But it was We All Be that brought Judge Joe Brown to y'all back in 2014. And so many others. And we covered so many things. So help us out so we can help you all. Peace.
Tonight, a man who says he was the cellmate of a prisoner who was killed while in custody at 201 Poplar
is speaking out. Investigators say Gershon Freeman died at the Shelby County Jail, but questions remained about what happened. Freeman was in jail for domestic violence charges. Jay Shakur has more.
Inmate Gershon Freeman died Wednesday evening while in custody at the Shelby County Jail. Family members are saying they got a call early Thursday morning that Freeman had been in a fight. Jacob Wilder says he was Freeman's cellmate at 201 Poplar before his release Thursday, and he says he witnessed this altercation. Wilder claims the inmates were on lockdown for several days and dealing with unsafe living conditions.
They got straight with no food, no water, nothing. Not being able to call his family and his folks.
Wilder alleges that Freeman and another inmate began arguing. Then Wilder says a correctional officer opened the cell's doors and allowed a physical fight to ensue between Freeman and another inmate.
The CEO officer, he called for backup, and that's when the DRTs, 4 of them, came after Mr. Freeman. They was beating him to death, stomping his head in, and he was screaming, saying, "Stop, stop, stop." Pepper spraying him.
Wilder claims it was nearly an hour before any medical aid arrived.
He was unconscious, no speaking, no breathing, nothing, just laying there. But the nurses, they came and got him, picked his body up, and carted him off the pod.
Wilder claims he was told not to say anything, but feels he has to share what he feels to be the truth.
I'm gonna speak on what I know, and what I know is what I know. Ain't nobody gonna tell me different.
In Memphis, I'm Jay Shakur.
We did reach out to the TBI didn't answer our questions, but the TBI says Freeman's body was sent for an autopsy to determine the exact cause of death, and they're awaiting those results.
Guess who's back? Back again. Brother Ron, tell a friend. Welcome everybody to We All Be News, Radio, and TV. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Brother Ron, also known as R2C2H2, the Artivist. We have a great show lined up for you all today with some great guests and a great topic. Today is Monday, October the 2nd, and also, as you all should know, in Memphis and the greater Mid-South, we are also due for our mayoral election and citywide elections, which will take place October 5th of this week. Got about 17 candidates running for the office of Memphis mayor. Like all the members of the Wu-Tang Clan are running for the office of Memphis mayor. It what it feels like. But we want to talk about some serious stuff like the Gershon Freeman clip I just played. As you all may know, if you are in the Memphis area as well as nationally, 9 sheriff deputies have been indicted for the death of Gershon Freeman, a 33-year-old man who was awaiting his day in court, who was stumped to death or beaten to death by upwards to 20 sheriff deputies, caught on camera on film on October 5th, 2022 in 201 Poplar, which is considered by many to be a worse prison or jail than Rikers Island up in New York City, which is way bigger than 201 Poplar. So Sheriff Bonner is the head of 201 Poplar. He's the top lawman in Shelby County, Tennessee. And he is also one of the, as far as I know, front runners for the office of mayor of Memphis. But there's been some pushback, especially with this case being coming out. Because you got to think about this happened October 5th of last year. The mayoral elections are coming up October 5th of this year. So it's the 1-year anniversary of the very tragic and unfortunate death of Mr. Freeman at the hands of the Sheriff Deputies Department of 201 Poplar. Now, Sheriff Bonner recently had a press conference to push back on the narrative put out in the news that his sheriff deputies were responsible for the death of Gershon Freeman. He said he died from pre-existing conditions, but the medical examiner ruled that it was indeed a homicide.
So that's interesting, like, it's heightening the contradictions. But it's like Sheriff Bonner was more concerned about them leaking the tapes, which he felt like a political hit job on him to ruin his chances to be mayor. He was not concerned about, from my understanding, looking at the press conference, the snippets about the content or the context of the video. He didn't question that. He just questioned the release of the tapes or of the video. He questioned the timing of it all. He felt like it was a political conspiracy against his chances of being mayor of Memphis. So we're going to talk about that case. While I was planning on talking about that case and have some special guests on to talk about the conditions of 201 Poplar. Like I said before, many people or experts say that 201 Poplar is way worse than Rikers Island, which is way bigger. And Sheriff Bonner, my understanding, there's been over 50 people have died under his watch since he's been sheriff of Shelby County, Tennessee. He is the top lawman in the county, and also he's the head of 201 Poplar, but he wants to be the head of Memphis, the so-called city of good abode. So without further ado, we'll introduce one of our special guests, a guy I met by divine timing and circumstance. I was actually went up to the city, the county commissioners meeting, looking for them to give us some more money for some of my projects that my nonprofit sponsors annually. And as Commissioner Lowry office, he sponsored us this year for the Jimmy Lunsford Jamboree Festival and the Jimmy Lunsford Legacy Awards. And I went into the office, and I was expecting to see somebody who got promoted. A young lady who worked as a clerk for Commissioner Lowry. She was no longer in that office, and I happened to run into a young man who had a lot of papers thrown around, organizing papers, petitions, and whatnot. He had a grievance with what I just talked about, the 201 Poplar situation, and he spent some time in 201 Poplar, so he had I guess an extended stay a little bit in 201 Poplar, and it was not a 5-star review he gave it. Matter of fact, he was a representative of some of the other people who experienced trauma and all types of horrible things at 201 Poplar. So I guess it was all in God's plan that we meet in that office that day. And I told him that I would help him get the word out about what's going on at 201 Poplar, and also about his unsung efforts to amplify the fierce urgency of reforming 201 Poplar. So without further ado, I want to introduce this man and bring him on to the stage. Brother Samuel Hogan, how you doing today, sir?
I'm better than I deserve. Yourself, Ron?
I'm good. I'm great, man. I try, I know it's been a minute, like time going by fast, but ever since I met you, 201 Poplar been on my mind. This mayor race, Floyd Bonner been on my mind, and I was just hoping that something would happen in terms of people start talking more about what's going on in 201 Poplar. So I'll let you take it from here, explain your story, and give us the things you're doing and how we can support it.
Well, first of all, my name is Samuel Hogan. I also go by the moniker Shaggy, so that's kind of where you can check me out on social media. I got that moniker in the famous 201 Poplar. Unfortunately, I have had the luck of ending up there about 4 times. So I have not necessarily been an angel by any stretch, and I've done some wrong, but 201 is a holding facility, and there are regulations and standards set at a federal and state level as to how we are supposed to treat people before they, as he said, meet their day in court. And I think that it is absolutely vital we take a look at some of these grievances in particular, because I'm not making up grievances for just the sake of publicity or anything like that. I'm only writing grievances about things that can cost people life, right? Or affect their ability to fight their case, right? A lot of people may not understand that being in jail, yes, you're waiting your day in court, and yes, you should in theory be able to, do some research and fight your case. However, the way 201 Poplar is set up currently, especially with the COVID regulations and restrictions, people are not able to access the law library. And they're supposed to bring a cart in, but that only happens if there's rec. They're not doing that, right? people will go weeks at a time waiting on the law library, right? And then these grievance forms, I have a lot of them. I've got, this is about 36 of them, plus one from my most recent stay, unfortunately. And I must admit, having been there about 3 weeks ago, conditions are no better, Ron. Unfortunately, they're no better, like at all. They're not providing medical treatment. There was no water fountains or access to water in intake, which people have to sit at, I'm sure you've heard, for up to 3 days at a time. And that's not uncommon. You know, people are waiting, processing in for simple things like driving on suspended that they will immediately be released for, ROR. They're having to wait for days at a time. And there was no water fountains, no working water fountains, but there's no access to grievances in places like intake. And then in lower level, where they have up to hundreds of inmates, they give, and this is what they told me when I asked for a grievance form, they give them 3 grievance forms for that floor per day. This is hundreds of inmates. I don't understand. I mean, like, if this is not them trying to silence what's going on inside, I don't know what else is. And like you heard the gentleman who was cellmates with Mr. Freeman, unfortunately, they do issue threats like that. They want you to shut up. They do not want you to speak out. And your time will be harder because of it. They make it very difficult.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, do you feel like you've been targeted specifically because of your activism and call for reform on 201 Poplar?
I don't want to make any claims or issue any accusations in that regard. You know, like I said, I have not been an angel. You know, I've done my own wrongs and whatnot, but I do believe our justice system is able to more or less weed out, you know, right from wrong. In a lot of cases, it's just, you know, the conditions of 201 do not even give that an opportunity to happen. You know, that's punishment before trial. That's not even fair. It's not fair to anyone, and it's not lawful. So
hey, what was your take when you heard that Sheriff Floyd Bonner was running for mayor of Memphis? How did you feel about that?
I can tell you my immediate reaction was actually to go to Facebook and make a post about it, because I was upset to hear that. And I issued similar claims to what I've been saying ever since. I feel like there's no reason in anyone's mind we should give this man more authority in the city of Memphis when he has not been able to even maintain the existing standards set by our state and federal authorities on the jail he runs. Like, a jail is way easier to run than a city. I'm pretty sure. Like, I played a few video games that are like jail simulators. That's way easier than the city simulators where you have to juggle all the finance and everything else alongside, you know, city services. So I don't know. Like, he can't handle the medical staff regulations and requirements for his own jail. How is he going to provide and issue funding or orders to funding and sign off on funding for things like our city medical services? I don't know.
So what's been the response from the people? I know I mentioned you in Commissioner Lowry's office. Like, I know you've been approaching public service and whatnot, and
Yes,
politicians about the issues at 201. I know that from my own experiences talking to people connected to the commissioner offices, that they are aware of the things that have been not been going on in 201 Poplar. So what has been the feedback or response to your queries, and also you trying to address the grievances and make them aware?
So I've been working with my local commissioner, and that happens to be Edmund Ford.
Okay.
And he's actually been fantastic about this whole thing. Someone from his office reached back out to me after me and him spoke and requested me bring up documents to the office so they can make copies. That's actually where I met you. And since then, they have had to be able to go over all of those. And I've just been in communication with them about that. If they have any questions about them, I mean, they speak for themselves in the paperwork. Like, some of the things that they deemed non-grievable were absolutely grievable. They put arbitrary limits on stuff. Like, you can only write 5 grievances in a 30-day period. What happens if there's more than 5 things that happen, like, that are grievable, that happen to you? Like, I'm writing things about people not being provided medication at night. What? Like, you'll go to, like, in prison, or when I got to the Pentafarm, if you didn't take your medications, like you refused your medications at night, they send you to the hole. But then they can just not bring them in the jail. But people need them for blood pressure, diabetes. In my case, it was mental health stuff. Right? I had time-release medications I needed to take in a regular interval, or else they're moot. Right? It can cause more problems, not less. So access to the phones and that requires rec, right? In order for us to be able to use the phones, they have to open the doors and let us use the little common area, right, of the pods. And they're just not doing that most days. That means no shower. That means you're showering in your sink. And it can be days at a time.
So what the inmate described about Gershon Freeman's situation is accurate to you? Like,
oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And guys go crazy about this. Like, you know, just imagine this. You have a bunch of grown men sealed away in cages for days at a time, and the guards are also taunting you. Like, that's the other. It's not like it's a they're just not there. No, they're coming through. You ask them, hey, are we getting recreation today? Hey, can I call my family? Hey, can I use the kiosk? We need to use the kiosk in order to put in things like, I don't know, forms or program forms, or access a bunch of things like the law library, or even mail now. We don't get mail delivered by hand anymore. No paper mail unless it's legal mail. Everything else you have to read on the kiosk. So it means you cannot bring your mail, letters, or whatever to your cell to reread and to go over while you're writing. And if you don't get rec, you don't even get to read your letters. Nothing.
Wow.
Yep.
So that's cruel and unusual punishment, right? I mean, that's going above and beyond what they should be doing.
And they're cutting people off from access to the outside world. If we saw this happening in a foreign country, the U.S. would probably consider intervention. It's a human rights violation going on here in Memphis.
So people like you help make aware to some of the commissioners or Commissioner Ford and other people are aware. Why do you think it's taking so long to change the conditions then? Like, what's the issue?
I wish I knew, Ron. I wish I knew, because the urgency is people can continue to die while in custody and they're not doing anything about it. If they're understaffed to a point where people's lives are in danger, or for instance, they're not able to provide adequate medical care, you know, you can't be holding people there. You can't. It's not right.
You know, I was thinking like they said that Gershon Freeman had a psychotic break. That was the reason why they had to do what they did to him. And I feel like you having a mental health issue or illness or whatever you want to call it should be a death sentence. It should not be a reason for people to do you like that.
You know, I can actually go through some of these. I have grievance from my time in their mental health ward at the 201 Poplar jail.
Yeah.
Abysmal conditions, like what they endure on the lower levels and on the floors, as they call it, like, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I guess 5 and 6 would be more like penthouse stuff. That's open pods. Yeah. But the rest of them, that's where everyone's locked down all the time. You know, those conditions are bad, but in the what they call the suicide pods, 2M and 2N on second floor, that is absolutely abysmal. It's a concrete pad. The lights don't cut off, and you don't get soap and access to a toothbrush. The showers don't happen, and there's usually like human waste and other things smeared on the walls because it's people with mental illnesses, and they don't go back through and clean the cells out between uses. So it's definitely humiliating, and I can understand why a lot of people would not be the same after their experiences there. But, you know, thankfully the Lord has definitely provided spirit in me that cannot be broken by things like that. And I feel like I have to use my voice and my ability to speak to others to get the word out about this kind of stuff.
You know, I'm glad that the good Lord or God and universal God brought us together then for this, because this is what I started, what I'm starting, the platform to amplify voices like yours that speak for folks who may not be able to speak or articulate for themselves, what you just, you know, sharing with us right now. So I'm trying to process all this. Like, so this dude, Sheriff Bonner, he the top cop in the county, and I've seen how he runs his jail because it's on him. He's over the jail. He's the head of that jail.
Would you like me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Would you like me to read one from?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's why I got.
This is from the 19th of last month. That's what this one is from. Upon arriving to 201, I was sent to medical in intake with multiple gunshot wounds. There, I was informed I would receive wound care every 12 hours for my multiple injuries. I have not received any wound care or treatment during the duration of my incarceration. This is leading to infections. Multiple times, I've asked pod officers and staff for treatment and or and upon refusal for grievances to report the lack of medical treatment, I was threatened in the A.L.L hallway by officer I asked for a grievance from. And that was Sergeant Ford of the A.L.L pods, so lower level. Sergeant Ford decided to threaten the inmate in that report. So yeah, that's it's not that great when they just asked for medical treatment. And they make you sign a wound care form agreeing to wound care in a certain interval, and then they just don't even provide it. So yeah, and the whole time you're not allowed to shower for the most part. If you're locked down, how are you going to clean your wound in your sink you share with another inmate? How is that going to work? Like, what are they doing?
These are great questions. Like, what are they doing, and why is that okay? Why people are not? I mean, people talking about, you always hear the story, like, what they're doing in China and Russia and stuff. We worse here. We got a large percentage of the world's prison population in America, like with 25%, or if not more now.
It doesn't have to be this way, Ryan.
Population.
Like the prison population size does not have to equate to bad conditions, right? I also have spent time at the Penna Farm. The time there was way smoother, way smoother. We had access to things we needed. If there was a problem, the guards were not complete a-holes, if you know what I mean. Like it was not a antagonistic relationship in the same way they have positioned themselves in our county jail, which in my outside view kind of seems backwards, right? Why are you making it for people like who, not that they should change it, to be honest, we need to treat everyone humanely, but people who have not had their day in court yet, that is absolutely crazy to treat them worse with less access to resources and everything that they need. That just doesn't even make sense, because there's a lot of people at 201 who stay there for sometimes months at a time and cases get dismissed. It happens regularly. And, you kind of got to treat people humanely in the holding procedure for sure. But like I said, there's federal and state regulations about this, about the mandatory minimum amount of recreation. There's a reason people go with the whole 23-and-1 thing. El Chapo, for instance, gets more recreation than most inmates at 201. Wow. And that's because he gets his mandatory 1 hour. Like every day, it's federal. Like he's going to get his 1 hour. They're just not providing that.
So, like, I was thinking about the Gershon Freeman thing. Like the Sheriff Bonner said, he died from a pre-existing condition, but the medical examiner said it was a homicide. And I'm saying, like, they creating where you going to have a pre-existing condition because of how they treat you. Like, you're not getting your mandatory exercise, not getting your medication.
The exercise thing has not been a thing for years, Ron. Like that, like my longest stay at 201 in 2021, I saw the gym one time, and it was because they had like Project Pat and them there to tell us to get the COVID shot. So, I mean, it was a pleasure to, get to see all that, but that was it. Then they ushered us back down. We have not been able to use the gym, the library that's in the jail. The jail has like actual resources there, and they don't let us use them. Like there's a whole library, I think, on the new Chicago floor. So we just don't get to use it. It's been closed for years.
But a lot of people are waiting to have their day in court before it's like you already got sentenced a lot of times. They just sentence you, you're just guilty or whatever. We're going to treat you like whatever, and nobody cares.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of other issues with the system, but at this point, I think we should all dial in our focus on the things that affect human life right away, the things that are urgent, right? As they would call an emergency grievance. If it's not an emergency, you know what I'm saying? It could probably wait till a little bit later down the road, but these things, access to food, medical resources, and recreation, that recreation time is not just for recreation. Like I said, it's for showering, communicating with your family, your lawyer, putting together an actual like legal defense, doing your own research and everything. And if you don't have access to do that, it's, your time there is literally wasted.
It's an interest. I just don't understand, like people, like why you think people are so not really like understanding how urgent you're speaking about the situation in 201 Poplar is? Why you think is the issue? Why you think there's a disconnect, or is there a disconnect?
I think Part of it there is, and that disconnect comes mostly from stigma, right? People who go to jail, a lot of the upper echelons of society just kind of write them off. Well, those, that must have been a bad person, right? We all make mistakes, and our system is called a correction system in order to correct those mistakes. It's not a penal system, right? It's not just meant to be punitive. It's meant to rehabilitate. And a lot of the programs we have in the city and in the county and in the state even are, functional. They just aren't really made aware to a lot of the people. For instance, we have entire offices here in Shelby County about like reentry and development for people who get out of, jail and prison. And I don't think most people who get out even go to the office. So it's things like that. Like we don't really make the community who deals with these problems aware of that, but they'll have functions at the botanical gardens or something, a country club. Like none of those people use those resources, but like we need to be making these community events in the communities that are impacted the most by said issues, right? Whether it be traffic stuff, healthcare, or in this case, jail reform, like resources. We just need to bring these resources to the communities that are most affected by it.
Now, that's interesting. I was thinking about what you were just saying, processing it, and it's like 201 Poplar is like a microcosm of Memphis in general, because like the perception of Memphis or microcosm, I don't know, I think I'm saying it right, but anyway, they get it. But Memphis is like paraded around as an impoverished city when it's not really impoverished. You got resources.
Correct.
Here. You got Fortune 500 companies here. You got millionaires that live in the city. You got a billionaire that lives here. It's like you said, you got facilities at 201 Poplar that are not being utilized. So why do people want to do this Wizard of Oz BS where it's like, it's all impoverished and poor, but you're sitting on resources? What do you think that's about?
I'm working in music, as you may be able to tell behind me. I don't actually fight that whole perception of Memphis because it helps with that particular industry, right? In the music industry, Memphis comes off as super gutter or whatever, and that is a bonus for artists that come out of Memphis. We have some of the best buzz in the world right now in the hip hop space. And, if we lean into that with the grit and grind mentality we always have, I think Memphis can make a lot of changes. There's a lot of really good people here, really good community leaders. It's just, the internet presence and people being up to date here in the city. We're a little backwards. We're the South. I think that's pretty much understood. And, that's a perception, but it's also partly reality. A lot of people who do great work in this city aren't even on the internet. And, although that may be a shame, it's the way they want to live. So, we got to respect that. And I think that's cool. But I think we need to celebrate the community leaders we already have, lean more into community engagement and just connecting people with resources. I found my biggest success in just connecting people.
It's like you're definitely a community organizer and you connecting. Definitely music is an important part in connecting people as far as social networking and other things.
Yes, sir.
But my thing is, I know you cannot vote currently, at least right now, but have any mayoral candidate caught your eye in terms of have any one of them really address what is going on in 201 Poplar, or do you feel confident would actually help initiate change?
I'm certainly for anyone who's not Floyd Bonner, just because that is a threat to us right now. However, there are a few candidates that have caught my eye, and I believe you've spoken with Mr. Joe Brown, and that is the Honorable Joe Brown. I do think would make a pretty good candidate. He seems pretty in tune with that, and I know that with his face card, he'd be able to get a lot of stuff done inside and out of Memphis. And right now, that may be what we need, because we need to be drawing as much business here, manufacturing here. We're the distribution capital of Middle America. We should probably, utilize that and leverage that. I think who better than somebody may be familiar with on TV. I think Joe Brown might make a pretty good candidate. But you see, our boy A.L.L has endorsed another candidate, so I'll leave his words out there for that. And there's a bunch of other good candidates. Like I said, a lot of community leaders themselves are stepping up to the plate and running for office, and I love to see that. So it's unfortunate I can't vote. I'd be a little bit more active, but yeah, that's all.
Yeah. Well, you said A.L.L Chopper. You talking about a rapper?
Yes, sir.
He endorsed Paul Young, or
I think so. I think he did endorse Mr. Young. I can pull it up real quick.
My thing is like, I know Paul. I don't know him like that. I've spoken with Paul. That's Paul Young is over the downtown commission. And he's kind of like, he reminded me of Obama in 2008. His campaign is very well run, well financed. But like I told Paul, who gave you the money? Who run it? Who really run it, Paul? Because who gave you out them deep pockets? And you got to answer to those people. And you not. So who's your real constituents?
Right.
You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, I look
to?
at, yeah, because like even you bring companies and corporations down here, are you giving the best deal for the citizens of Memphis to have a living wage? You know, like they always focus on tourism, but if it's not safe for the people who actually choose to live here 24/7, then why should we care about it being safe for tourists or even making money out of tourism or tourists if you can't make a living where you live? See, I think a lot of these people don't have
I definitely agree.
The backbone or the vision or the willingness to say no to bad deals for the people. It might be good for corporate America, it may be good for their inner circle, but for the people we left out in the cold. So I'm not really impressed with none of them. I mean, Judge Joe Brown, I've been knowing Judge for a while. He actually got a plan that he's articulated over the years that he's written out that I think could be a viable plan for the future of this city, for the citizens who choose to live here. It's like I keep on thinking about how Memphis was 60 years ago. You know, Memphis was in the same league as Dallas, as Nashville, as Atlanta. Now, 60 years later, they all surpassed Memphis, and Memphis keep on talking about what happened on April 4th, 1968. Dallas had something happen November 22nd, 63. They killed the president down in Dallas. They ain't phased Dallas, no disrespect to President Kennedy, but they keep on booming and keep on growing. But I look at Memphis, they want to sing the blues about this. We love being a victim in Memphis. It's like we love being victimized here. We got a victim mentality in Memphis.
But we do have some pretty good plans. I've read through their Memphis 3.0 plan for the future of Memphis and Shelby County and all that. Seems like a good one because they're talking a lot about de-annexing certain outskirt areas so they can focus in their resources on communities that have real population. And, you know, we're already part of Memphis and producing tax dollars. And we also do need to be looking at building up. Right. That's been a big thing as well. You've seen them work on developments all near Summer Avenue and in North Memphis, Midtown, the Cooper Young area. Like they have really been trying to turn parts of Memphis around. I'm definitely here for that. And I think if we start to look a little bit more at like mass transit opportunities, that's when the population of Memphis and the citizenry can really start to reap some of the rewards of all this tax money that comes here and these manufacturing companies that come here. Because if it costs us all this money, we should definitely be getting better roads or mass transit or, you know, something. I think it would help position us for the next 100 years, which is their Memphis 3.0 plan anyways. So,
but who are they building Memphis 3.0 for? If the people are undereducated and undervalued, the actual citizens of Memphis. Like, what does the population look like within a couple of decades? Will it be the folks that actually have family roots in Memphis, or will it be for other people coming in? The replacement, so to speak.
Right. And you've actually seen a lot of that, I'm sure. Having lived in Memphis for as many years as you have, Mr. Ron, I'm pretty sure you've gotten to watch the exodus of certain people out of the city, and then the return of some of those said people to other areas. And that's definitely not a sustainable way to develop, especially when family wealth, may come in the form of a house or a piece of property or whatever. And we can't afford to be, you know, bulldozing people up out of our community. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, even you can't forget about people that's locked away either. That's the whole point. People want to forget about people and leave so many people behind. That's the problem, man. You don't throw away people in a society that's supposed to give second chances.
Throw away the next generation all along with it. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. We got to be taking care of these issues now, so that the next generation of people can go into these systems and then be utilized for the corrective purposes that they're meant for, not for punitive reasons. Like it's absolutely ridiculous. So I really do appreciate you letting me come up here and speak a little bit about the topic. I got a lot of hope for the city of Memphis. I fell in love with it. I was not born here, but I grew up out in the Millington area, and I've lived in Memphis since adulthood, and it's been a pleasure. I love the people here, and I definitely love the food. So I'm not going nowhere.
Well, Justin Timberlake claims Memphis. Now he's from Millington, so it's Memphis.
Right, E.E. Jeter, you know, out there in the woods, right?
But like, what? How can we support what you're doing? Do you have an organization you're a part of? Is it a network of people you work with,
So
or how do we get?
I, as an individual, work with a number of different organizations, but I have my own little music collective, and we do some community outreach stuff, financial literacy stuff. We've actually been bringing people directly into the team from the prison as they got released, just people who are hungry for bettering themselves and just needed access to some resources. As you may have noticed, I'm pretty good about that. So just helping people get certain things ironed out and their feet underneath them for the future. But you guys can check me out on like Instagram and Twitter. I don't currently have a nonprofit or anything like that I'm working with. I would be more than happy to discuss some things with you though, Ron, about some other groups and nonprofits I do work with in the Twitter space. So I think that there's a potential for some community outreach here, and maybe even getting it stamped by the city or county authorities, maybe like with their Office of Development and Reentry, just to bring some awareness to some of these programs, or maybe even the GVIP program. I'm not sure. So
it sounds cool. I mean, also you gig around? Are you part of a band or anything?
What'd you say?
Do you gig around? Do you actually have like play in venues around town? Like you're a drummer back there, right? You're a drummer?
No, so this is my home studio. I have my drum set, our keyboard. We got a guitar back here, but my recording booth is right here. I don't actually play music. I just happen to have a little network of artists that I work with, and I really like their music. I believe in them, so I try and support them however possible. And we've turned this into a little brand and business, and we're just making music, seeing what it pays.
This is how Stack started. I know I was talking to Carla Thomas yesterday. She's a friend of mine. You know who Carla Thomas is, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we was talking yesterday. Like Carla is like a walking encyclopedia. I mean, she could tell you about good old days. Yeah, Otis Redding. Tell you stories about Donny Hathaway. Her daddy Rufus.
She'll tell you about all the old radio stations that used to be on Memphis too.
Yeah, WDIA. I mean, my organization, we're celebrating WDIA at our annual Jimmy Lunsford Legacy Awards, which will be at the Holoran on November 4th. And I'll see you the information on that. But we're celebrating the 75th anniversary of WDIA being the first Black radio station in the whole country. Like this happened October 25th, 1948. So Black radio was invented in Memphis. A lot of great things get started in Memphis. A lot of great people who are not born in Memphis a lot of times, but they come through Memphis. They get their foundation for greatness to go wherever they want to go, starting in Memphis. So this is why I want people to know the greatness of Memphis. So like you starting your home studio could lead to you being the next Stax Records or Sun Studio or Sun Records. You could be the next Sam Phillips or James Stewart. You know
where it comes from, though.
Timing.
It comes from that given spirit people in Memphis have. St. Jude is here for a reason, right? We do an immense amount of charity work just as a group of people in the city of Memphis. People are very kind. They're more likely to give you a chance or a second chance or whatever here than in most other places, because I think life's hard, bro, and people here have gotten to experience that, especially since 2008. So I do got a lot of faith in the city, and I just be praying for the leaders, man. I pray for whoever gets that seat, man, they do something right with it. But I definitely I like Mr. Ford. He's done a lot of good advocacy work, and he's taking this pretty seriously. So if he can affect any change, man, my support goes to him.
Yeah, I like Mr. Ford people because one of his people, I think his father gave us some money. I ain't gonna say nothing bad about the Fords to do the work we do. I'm not used to having money to do work that we do. Like you do your God work, it's like you just by divine faith. But we got a person that you talked about a great deal about. He's on this about to get on the stage. I want you on here with him, the one and only, the Honorable, hopefully the next mayor of Memphis, Tennessee, the Honorable Judge Joe Brown. How you doing, sir?
Judge is in the house, gentlemen. How you doing?
Yeah, how's it going?
Great. This is Samuel Hogan. Yeah. The 201 Poplar activist I told you about, the reform activists we'll talk about Bonner.
Yeah.
Situation.
I believe we've spoken.
Poplar, so. We have.
Y'all spoke? Sir. Okay, good.
We talked about this. Bonner is saying he's only responsible for 41 dead people since he's been sheriff of Shelby County over the last 5 years at 201 Poplar. I supplied him with 52 names that somebody in my committee was nice enough to dredge up. And with the total that have died in his custody, it's 83 if you expand it outside of 201 Poplar. And Amnesty International now declares Memphis tied for being the most dangerous place to be incarcerated in America, alongside Rikers Island, New York. That's very bad. And then, speaking of him, since he's responsible, one of the local news outlets reported allegedly that he got busted when he was chief deputy back in 2017 for sexual assault against 2 female employees, one white, one black, and he wound up getting written up, officially reprimanded for it, and had to undergo counseling, redemptive counseling. But that's not who we need to have in charge of being the mayor of Memphis over the police department after he failed so miserably with the sheriff's department. And I say that because you are the chief bailiff for the criminal courts if you're the sheriff, unless one of the criminal court judges allows the sheriff to substitute deputies. But primarily, these people basically just could not make bond. They hadn't been convicted. They were awaiting trial, and 52 of them dead in 5 years. That's ridiculous.
In a holding facility. Absolutely ridiculous. None of those people were ever convicted, like, because they got killed before they could see their day in court. And that's all I've been advocating for, is that people just be treated humanely. And us in the community of Memphis need to rise up about this, because they're not providing the services that they're mandated by the federal and state authorities to provide. El Chapo gets more recreation than us, Judge Joe.
Well, I tell you something. I was elected to 2 8-year terms as a criminal court judge, and during each of those terms, I became the administrative judge for criminal courts, and I was over the jails, and I know what it's like down there and what goes on. And during that time period, nothing like this happened. No way, no how. And this is just the idea that 52 people are dead down there in 201 Poplar, where the city courts are located, general sessions, criminal divisions are located, and the criminal courts are located. The public defender's office is located in that building. And by the way, before they built it, I was the public defender back in the 70s. The prosecutor's offices are down there. The city court clerks are there. The general sessions clerks, criminal division are there. The criminal courts clerks are there. The police department's there. The jury dorm is there. And the sheriff's department's there. And 52 people die in that building?
Yes, sir.
No how, no way. I'm not buying it. And the other thing that's going on is gangs have infiltrated the sheriff's department, but nobody seems concerned about brokering peace or bringing that under control. So what are we supposed to do? Just devolve into complete lawlessness? And I say that because, hell, there are people accused of committing crimes, but under the American system, you're innocent until you're proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And in Tennessee, to a moral certainty. And by the way, I wrote the pattern jury instructions that stood for 25 years on that. So I know what I'm speaking of. Now, it is a shame that people who are presumed innocent are dying at a higher rate than they are out in the streets at 201 Poplar, which is only a holding facility.
Judge Joe, I think it's important I share something with you, just relating to the sheriff's office attempts to repress information coming out of there. The jail is still more or less on lockdown most of the time. They're not allowing people opportunity to use the phones or even read letters. They've stopped allowing people to get letters in paper. Now you can only read your letters through the kiosk, which is in the common area of all the pods, which if you're on lockdown, you have no access to that kiosk because you're in your cell. So people are not able to read mail for days at a time now, alongside the phone call stuff. But also
for communications with attorneys.
If the attorney does not come to visit you at 201, there's no special privilege given to that.
So what about attorneys' correspondence or anything like that? That's all.
Legal mail is still paper mail, but I think they deliver that through the gang, like the gang unit at the jail, either DRT or something like that.
This is absolutely pathetic. What's going on here? And do they still? They don't even have pretrial release anymore, do they?
They do still do pretrial release, ROR and stuff. That's
Yeah.
a lot of guys. A lot of guys get ROR right after intake or right through intake. That's something me and Mr. Ron were just talking about. How people can sit for days at a time in intake, and that's probably not for the best. Usually, they have to put a hold on people for things like domestic or DUI. They'll put a hold on them for like sobering up, or so that they can separate whatever the case may be. But it takes days at a time for people to go through intake, and they don't.
I know they cut back on the person about a decade and a half ago. I thought that was not a good move. They should have expanded the program instead of trying to, be penny wise and dollar foolish. Then you had this problem with the previous district attorney. She wanted to make sure that certain favored neophytes in the office got trial experience. So she was not working things out realistically. And the criminal courts were just horribly backlogged, as I heard from some of my younger colleagues who were still on the bench. And everything was just chaos because she was trying to use it not for the benefit and safety of the public and pursuant to the rights of the accused. She was using it as an opportunity to give some of her staff trial experience, which was not a good thing. They should have been downstairs in general sessions doing that rather than up in criminal court where they had jury trials. And that's just another part of the laundry list of offenses she can properly have laid at her feet, but she's no longer the district attorney. So we profit by that. Maybe there'll be some changes.
I hope Mr. Mulroy does something different. I do hope so.
But we have
I think it was cool. Yeah. Now, I commend him on like getting these indictments. Like, even though he had to go to Nashville to do them, I think that he's trying to do things differently. And maybe his hands are tied like a lot of people. But I mean, Judge, when you become mayor, let's say you become mayor, we will claim you mayor. How will you handle the Memphis Police Department as well as the Sheriff Department? I mean, the sheriff is elected by the people, right?
Well, the
right?
sheriff
the
is elected.
Serves at the pleasure of the mayor.
The sheriff is elected as a constitutional officer for the county. It's an ancient office. It's one of the oldest in Anglo-American law. Sheriff, it started off as referee for the shire. And it embraces good guys, bad guys, white earps and such like. And the sheriff of Nottingham had a fixation on going after Robin, you know. So it is what it is. And I would have no jurisdiction other than perhaps influence or by lawsuit and litigation over the sheriff's department, but a damn sure would over the police department because the cop's boss is the mayor. Now, a lot of what's going on right now is there's no effective command authority. Now, are we R or X rated here today?
I mean, go ahead.
They got an old saying shit runs downhill. There's none to run downhill in Memphis because there's nobody in authority at the top. There's no command authority. The mayor, who is nominally supposed to be head of the police, has been an absolute disaster. And I think he deserves the name that some have given him, which is the Pillsbury Doughboy. He's more interested at not having a clue, sitting at a desk, not knowing what to do, and appointing committees who don't have a clue and putting out lots of petty cash that can be easily scooped up from the petty cash bowl or tray. And that's the way things are running. See, right now at the top, we have a chief of police who is the first civil service chief in 41 years. Why? Because previously we had a director of police who sat at the pleasure of the mayor, did not need city council approval either to be hired or fired. So Pillsbury Doughboy decides he wants to have influence, so he brings in a woman who is a Delta, meaning one of the black sororities, and he's supposed to get help from those ladies so he can get a third term when a referendum was pending at the time to allow a third term since he's now term limited. That didn't pass, but he brought in somebody that got demoted, then fired, then rehired in Atlanta because she was civil service, and then got into a problem in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, and then they pay her an exorbitant amount of money to be the chief, a sum they said was necessary to secure her employment. She now gets paid more than anybody in the state of Tennessee, except perhaps the governor. And her problem is, what did she get in those situations in Atlanta and Raleigh, Durham about? Well, they said it was because she was trying to protect a fellow cop's spouse. That's not it. The people she was protecting are now serving time in federal penitentiaries. You know what for?
What for?
For running a child pornography ring. And she was allegedly complicit in covering for the child porn ring. She gets here 2 weeks after she's here, a service sidearm was stolen, and the information is it was used in crime about 3.5 weeks later. You see her posters all over the city. Memphis, slow down. Hell, we're going slow enough as it is into the future. We need to speed up, and maybe somebody needs to demonstrate the ability to exercise command authority. Now, she appears to have secured the assistance of certain able senior cops here with MPD to do her job because she doesn't know what time it is. She doesn't know where she is. She has no knowledge of the city. The morale on the police department is about that high, and it's not good. So we need some changes there, and there's some ways around it. But we need to take the police department and put it under civilian control. And our model is right in front of us. It's the United States Department of Defense. You've got the president. He's a civilian. He's commander in chief. That would be the mayor, me. You've got the Secretary of Defense. He's a civilian. That would be the director. You have a Secretary of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines,
and then the chief of staff.
And that would be sub-directors over those departments in the police agency. You have chiefs of staff. That would be a civil service type. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That would be civil service uniform. And we need civilian heads of sex crimes, uniform patrol, traffic, burglary, and they could even be retired cops or first responders or veterans or ordinary people with administrative skills. We need to do something with the juvenile situation, so we have contracts signed between the child, the police, and the responsible parent or custodian. So if the child goes through the rehabilitative programs, the character development, the academic advancement that might come, then the charges are never prospered and they don't get into profit, rather, and they don't get into the system. We can look at things like, is this going to be a thug or is it somebody that's going to be a leader? We can seize upon the leader and make him able to do what he needs to do, so we don't just have the petty bourgeoisie trying to run everything. We've got ordinary people who participate in this leadership process. We need a thing under the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the common defense. And I'll be damned if we don't need a common defense against the rampant violence that's going on down in the streets. It's time for the city to implement an urban Second Amendment organization. I call it UCCP, Urban Citizen Community Patrol. And these could be retired first responders, veterans, good citizens who go through the training and supplement the police department and put fatherhood back in the neighborhood. Boy, come here. Earl, don't you know this guy? Charlie, you know him? Yeah, I think I know his mama. Doesn't your mama live 2 blocks over? Yeah, well, no, I don't want to hear that. You're going home. What, 14? I'm 13. No, well, you don't need to be out at 2 a.m. in the morning. We're taking you home. And you go, yes, you are. Come on, you're going home. See, and we need some of that kind of thing. So the citizens and the cops work together. That improves community relations. The police need to open up 2 ranges open to civilians so they can train them on how to use firearms, the rules as they pertain to self-defense, such things. Since this is a constitutional carry state where if you're eligible to buy, you're eligible to carry, and we might as well take advantage of that and give people training and some place to shoot and practice. Also, they used to call it to drill, but I just call it training so they can cooperate, learn call signs, radio protocols, operation of communications devices. We need to encourage the citizenry to get involved in this whole thing. I've been talking to Mulroy about a potential, or I mentioned it to him. He said it's open for negotiation, what I call an amnesty program. In other words, you help cut back on the crime and maybe you get amnesty for some of your minor wrongs, which is fair. Right. Prosecutors use that kind of discretion anyway. They want somebody as a witness. They don't prosecute them, or they give them a hell of a plea bargain in return for their testimony because they're bigger fish to fry. That kind of thing. We can work that out. I know as well as anybody, because there's nobody in this entire race that has been dealing with criminality as long as me. I'd say I've got at least 50 years experience in it. I was formerly a reserve deputy, a prosecutor, ran the DUI prosecutions for the whole city of Memphis, been the public defender before Bonner got hired to work down in the old jail. So I know more than he does. Doc's the only one been in government longer than me, one way or the other, but he was an educator. He wasn't somebody that dealt with what I dealt with. Now, granted, he got the police department under control. He just did not know what to do with it. So right now, I'm out there brokering public peace with the OGs in the street gangs. And they want the killing to stop. Now, I do have some experience with that goes back a long way. When I was at UCLA class of 69, I was the community liaison with Black Student Union / Black Student Alliance in the streets in LA. And I knew a lot of people. I was also playground director with 2 other guys. One, Dr. Stewart, passed 2 years ago. One, Dr. Chappelle, who's still around. We ran a place called Trinity Avenue Elementary School. Now, I saw how this could go right and how it could go wrong. 2 of my students, I bet you both have heard of. One of them, where it went right, though we did not think so at the time. We really worked on him. He was a skinny 12-year-old with an attitude. That's the late singer with the deep voice, Barry White. We enlisted his mama in the program, and he became Barry White. The other one we thought was our most promising student was a 14-year-old volunteer. His mama kept wanting to check she wouldn't let go. We couldn't get him out of the swamp, so he became the baddest alligator in the swamp. He was one of the last people, if not the last, executed in California. That was Tookie Williams, who co-founded the Crips out in L.A. So I've been dealing with this for more than a half century. And that was just when I started. So Tookie wrote 6 books on kids that he got prizes for. He was trying to convey what we were teaching him. They were excellent books. The governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, should have pardoned, commuted his sentence to life, but he didn't. And maybe that was because he wanted the problem to go away. What was the problem? He and Tookie used to work out at Gold's Gym and spotted for each other. So I guess the governor didn't want that close association with somebody sitting on death row. But anyway, I know how it works when it can go either way. So most recently, I was in the Bahamas, where at the behest of the prime minister, I was negotiating street peace between his government and the organized crime syndicates in the Bahamas. I managed to get that together, and it lasted for a few years. Hell, it even got funny. I walked into a meeting with the youth, and in the Caribbean, youth is 18 to 35, not under 18. So this guy's at one door with a Sten submachine gun, and the other guy's at another one with an old M3 American submachine gun. And the guy sitting next to me said, "Judge Brown, we respect you." He said, "But the man sick to your left, man. He got contract on me life. He want me dead. I got contract on his life. My bodyguard, he ready to kill him now, but we on peace. The man across from us, he want to kill all of us. But there's no point in killing him." So we worked out a deal, and it was kind of funny the first time I saw it work. One of the royals had a mansion broken into. So I'm sitting there talking to the island's attorney general, very beautiful looking woman. And we're sitting in her office, and the phone rings, she put it on speaker. Said, "Is Judge Brown there, man?" He said, "Sure." I said, "Yeah, Judge Brown. Hey, man, the person that burglarized, the royal household. We got him here. We got the 2 of them. They got zip ties around their ankles and their wrists, and we zip tied them to the back steps of precinct so and so and so and so. You will find each of them have handwritten confessions pinned to their shirt." I said, "Okay, Arima." So we went there and, and said, "Oh, wow." So they got most impressed. They cut down the drug trade in 2 weeks, and they had some peace. But you see, we can do this here because the OGs and the street gangs are tired of the killing. There's a power back, they're telling me. Nobody's in charge in the city of Memphis. Nobody. So they're having a power play to see who's going to be in charge. Because one of them explained to me, said, "No, Judge Brown, man, it's like this, man. Like, let's take Chicago, man. You had Harold Washington, man, and you had Daley for that, man. Somebody was in charge. Somebody was a strong man. And if you wanted to get where you wanted to get, you had to go deal with the organization, and you moved yourself up there. But there ain't nobody in charge of nothing in Memphis except stealing money in a lightweight fashion. So that ain't no example to these young folk when the folk at the top stealing, and the folk at the top ain't in charge of nothing. So there ain't nobody to fit into and rise up through." I said, "Yeah, I see that." So they said they trust me to be able to get a fair deal for everybody and turn the whole situation around. And that's what I've been doing. I've been meeting with the folks. So some of my opponents are going out meeting with the large corporations, and they're in the boardroom. "Yes, and if I'm there, I'm going to." Meanwhile, if they're not there, they're down in the Peabody lobby. "Oh, Sean, Is it time for the ducks to come down? Oh my God. Jamal, don't they look fascinating now that they've been taught to march? So they just look so cute when they waddle down the red carpet to the fountain. Oh, here they come.
Sorry. Oh, Joe,
We've been
all right,
blessed.
Joe,
with
let me-
See, that's not the kind of leadership this city needs. We are the distribution capital of the United States of America. Do you know that little rinky-dink airport we have out there leads the whole world in commercial tonnage? For God's sake, Hong Kong is half what we do, and they're in second place. The world's largest barge loading facility is on President's Island. And if you go down there on the river, watch sometimes. You see these little smaller than average barges that are all uniform on the tow. They come in from Europe. They get loaded up over there and they get put on these barge transports, brought over to New Orleans. They load them out, bring them up to Memphis. They go through customs in Memphis.
Most people don't know about our maritime network here in Tennessee, even because we got a canal that goes through the Tennessee River all the way to the Gulf in Mobile. We got a bunch of stuff. So
And see, I've talked to Europe in the Middle East over the last 20 some years, and they want to get in here, but they say they're blocked because these idiots here want some little petty bribes and aren't interested. Ford Motor Company wants to turn Mason into Blue Oval. Cadillac's talking about being in here. Well, that's nominally 50-some thousand employees in a few years, but that's not going to be the way they work it because they don't necessarily want to employ Memphians. They want to bring them in from elsewhere where people are mad because they got displaced, and instead of making cars, it's a Rust Belt. And there's an agreement between the 9th District, which is Democrat right now, and the 8th Congressional District, which is Republican. They don't want any locals from Memphis to change the demographics up there. So they want to build the town where Mason is. So Mason has 5,200 people. Mason is caught in the middle of this because it has a contract with Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. We passed a referendum in 97 that said no one can take out a contract for sewage services outside of the county with MLG&W unless they had, they had to have had a pre-existing contract from 97 or before. Well, Mason has one. That's 5,200 people dump sewage into our decrepit system. We handle it more or less. But if you take 27,500, 28,000 people from Ford Motor Company's plant. And then when you have an average of 3 point something per worker, that comes out at 100,000 people. And when you get Mickey D's, Malco's, Kroger, and CVS, Walgreens, Walmart's, et cetera, you're talking about 250,000 people in a new city, which would be about the 4th largest in Tennessee, inside of 5 or 6 years. And that's billions of dollars for the local suspects to make who are into building construction and construction material supply. So there's a fortune to be made, but here's what's going on. One of my opponents goes up there with the NAACP. He gets involved in the process. He winds up selling them out by getting their lawsuit against the state comptroller dismissed and conceding that they're going to pay the money that got stolen from them. Well, what does that do? What happens is they can't pay it, so Fayette County dissolves their charter, can turn it over to Blue Oval, and then what happens to Memphis? We now have 250,000 people dumping raw sewage to be processed in the sewage treatment facilities for Memphis Light, Gas, and Water, and our decrepit system won't handle it. And I'm told that the bill would range from about $4.5 to maybe $9 billion to fix this so we can handle that additional effluvia, and we get nothing out of it. So somebody's got to stop that before it gets too far. See, that's what's going on. The land bank in Memphis is almost empty. Why? Well, hedge funds from Wall Street have been coming in and buying up anything they can find so they can bundle up stuff and rely upon the last effective tax assessment to establish a baseline value, even if the place is overgrown, weeded, decayed, and collapsing. And then they acquire a few viable properties, and everybody in certain areas has been getting calls. Are you willing to sell your property for a prime payment? No, back, zoom. But you see, they want a few good properties so they can bundle them together. And what are they going to do with it? They're going to leverage the financing to build Blue Oval City. Now, I want Ford to get here. That's a lot of jobs, but let's be realistic about it. There's no point in us getting bent over with no grease, so to speak. Now, that's what's going on right now. We got a major hotel chain downtown that the city, through city downtown development, is talking about giving $200+ million to renovate. So I guess it would improve the downtown skyline. Right across from the Redbirds Stadium, where the Greyhound bus depot used to be. In fact, it's called the Greyhound Depot Development, one of its names. 20 some acres of property that was sold to the developer for just $600,000. That's right behind the Peabody. That's about $15-20 million worth of property. Well, the city is committing $200 million more to developing 28 luxury units to be gated and some upscale boutiques. Wow, who gets benefit of that? And what other candidate got himself 20 acres? And does that have anything to do with public and private partnership development? We've got a park down there on Union Avenue that had a prominent Confederate statue in there. Okay, it sounds good. We are upset with honoring this old time Johnny Reb, so we want to get rid of them, but we can't because it's public land, so let's sell it to something private. Well, what happens is the something private is incorporated by somebody who was sitting on the county commission, who introduces a resolution to sell it to his corporation, which is backed up by somebody else no longer on the county commission to sell it. So then there's a second resolution to sell it for no bid. The contract says $2,500 for that park down there in the medical center. The actual price out of the individual's own mouth, he was bragging, was just $1,000 for several $1 million worth of parks. Also the same one right next to the Metal Museum where another Confederate statue was located for just $1,000, and they can't sell it. And the corporation is listed as for the purpose of operating city parks. Well, let's look at what's going on at the fairgrounds. That's a city park. And what they're talking about at the city fairgrounds is something Strickland has put the stamp of approval on, $710 million to convert the football stadium down there to a soccer arena. And then $500 some million to renovate the Mid-South Coliseum and turn it into what I call the Opera House centerpiece for a residential development to be restricted down there. And that's a city park, and $3.5 billion for a new football field. So we want to spend out more than $1 billion when we have potholes that are not fixed, a sewage system breaking down, a water supply system that gets frequently contaminated, electric producing or distribution nets that fall down if you take your dog out and he pees on the sidewalk. You know, what is this? My lights were down for 27 hours one time. This year, 21 another one, 14, 8, and 6. And other people have suffered the same thing. Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. they'd switch to these smart meters, right?
Yeah.
Anybody notice how bad the cell phone service is? Why? Because AT&T operates the smart meters, and effectively they are a cell phone. And depending upon the time of day, the cell phone broadcast conveys your usage, hangs up, calls again once every 20 seconds. Sometimes, when they really want to get a label on it, every 10 seconds. So it's dialing, transmitting, hanging up, dialing, transmitting, hanging up. And that's why we don't have any bloody cell phone service that's really reliable around here.
It's killing our bandwidth. Yep.
Killing our bandwidth, even with the 5G. And if you have a sensor, you can stand out, walk 10 feet, it says 5G, then it says something else, and then it says nothing at all. And all you've done is walk 15 yards. See, so why are we doing that? Well, if you look at the brochures they used to send out, it says we're trying to hook you up with those concerns who have appliances that can cause your house to be smart, and we are monitoring your usage. Hell, they get inside your house, spying on you if you want to be conspiratorial. And we can't use our cell phones, even if you've got a brand new iPhone 14 or 15 or 13, completely up to date, and it doesn't work. Why? You can be 110 miles up toward Nashville and get better service.
Yes. And it's ironic that they do the smart meters so people can have smart appliances, particularly because with the low bandwidth created by the smart meters, you wouldn't be able to run many smart appliances in your home. They just wouldn't work.
Yeah, smart.
One of the candidates, the one's actually been elected to mayor, he had a bright idea back in the 90s to deal with public housing and to switch them to low income housing. There was a lot of finance available for that. It looked like a good idea, except one problem. Foot homes, walker homes, etc. You tore them down and you built the low income housing, but you didn't build enough units to house everybody. So they
replace the same number of units, correct?
Find some place, like where you gonna go? I don't know, find it. So now the city planning is completely screwed up, and you got a problem.
Another thing you'll see them do is they'll replace low-income areas. They'll bulldoze that, like they did in Cooper Young and Orange Mound in a lot of places, Midtown as well. They'll bulldoze like low-income housing, replace it with the same amount of units or more units, but not the same amount of low-income units, or none at all in some cases at all. Like, so those people are told, hey, we're going to replace this, with another unit, but it'll be a high income unit or out of their financial abilities. So yeah, I mean, and then the corruption in the county level is ridiculous. Look at Millington. That's
Kansas City. Who you telling?
Yeah, I'm figured, man. It's like that industrial development board they have out there. That is something that they gave a lot of the city land to, that was given to them by the U.S. Navy base as they downsized. They gave that shit to the city. Then the city gave it to the Millington Industrial Development Board, which is a private entity. That's a private corporation owned by their friend, like literally their friend. Like, I grew up with these people's kids. Like,
wait a minute. Don't forget the so-called nonprofit to operate city parks that was created by a county commissioner that started the first acquisitions with a no-bid thing that he and his collaborating put in place, that is going to get to operate all of that. And guess what? The city council has a pending resolution to turn over the city parks department's whole operation to that corporation. Meanwhile,
we're going. Yeah, we got to name names. That's Van Turner. That's Van Turner, right?
Yeah. And Tammy.
Then downtown, and downtown is Paul Young, correct?
Paul Young, yeah. And then
Yeah, here's the problem. They both running for mayor,
Not
but here's the
Harrington.
problem with it. Yeah,
Replace,
Harrington. See, these are, but
and
these are the
as he said,
problems.
as he says, I only have 20 some acres that I'm interested in now, that my plan of public and private partnership should be able to develop. Hey, you almost got in trouble with that one
Yeah,
before.
but
But
my
here's
thing
the
is,
other thing about this
uh-huh.
construction bit. This is the way it goes. The city council, some of them are county commissioners or Germantown Board of Aldermen. They get a deal they can't refuse, big contributions to their campaign funds for future use or personal use if they declare them and pay taxes on them. Well, they get encouragement, fiscal, financial encouragement. So they pass a zoning variance. When they get the zoning variance, what happens is they talk the commission, the council, the board of aldermen into building something. So the taxpayers pay for the thing to be built, pay for the construction material,
Right.
and then the person that came up or the entity that came up with this pays $1 cash up front and supposedly 4 to 6% of the net, which is always zeroed out by the accountants. So we wind up paying for certain entities to start businesses, operate businesses, get all of the profit from it, and we pay for it. Meanwhile, let me give you this one. What is our largest corporate business in the Memphis area?
FedEx.
Right. It's international, all over the world. Remember the one where Tom Hanks was the FedEx pilot? He crashed and got marooned on the island in the Pacific, right?
Yeah.
Why in the hell are we paying $350 million so they can put in some skyboxes at the FedEx for them?
That's a good question. And then I think that they are under like a very low tax obligation anyways for.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. We've been doing that a lot lately, like signing away our tax dollars for the next 10 to 30 years. And I don't know why they keep doing that. Like that we're literally shooting ourselves in the foot for the future for them to do these backroom deals.
Well, I'll tell you
well,
how they work. Go ahead. Oh, well, go ahead.
Now, I was saying, this is the issue that I have a problem with. Like, we got to start naming these people names, these sellouts or empty suits and yes people. I'm tired of it. I don't want no more retread from Harrington. He messed the ball up because the thing about it is, if you're gonna knock down no projects, you got to reboot the people's mind and thinking, because everywhere they go, they're gonna create a ghetto or a project, because your mind is the most valuable real estate. It's not the land, it's the land between your ears. If you can't change the people thinking and how they view themselves in relation to their environment, they're going to have a poverty spirit. They're going to manifest poverty everywhere they go. They are building a Memphis that's not for Memphians. This is the problem.
Yeah.
Like, all their 3.0s, you leaving so many people behind, you throwing them away. Even with 201 Poplar, if you the mayor, can you do anything about 201 Poplar without going through all the red tape?
Yes.
Anything be done the first week or your first 100 days?
Yes.
This is my problem, because everybody keep on talking about what they want to do, but it's like all about businesses, and you're not bringing in people with living wages. I want people to make a living in Memphis, not to live, not to exploit. I want Memphians, not tourists. I want the people that choose to live here to have a future and not be taken for granted. I don't want to hear no more from these people. These people are jokes. They're this mayor race leaves a lot to be desired. That's what I'm saying, Judge. So if you're gonna do something, do it.
Why are we talking about minimum wage when, if you work this right and it becomes the largest industrial city in America, why are we talking about minimum wage instead of $78.14 an hour, $132.19 an hour, which could be brought in here? See,
that's not far-fetched either.
And see, right here,
how about 30?
National Harvester, Goodyear, they have these slabs that are more than 55 years old. Why is that important? Well, something happens to concrete after 55 years. You can't use a pneumatic jackhammer. You have to use dynamite. And some of the new forging devices, like they'd be using to develop the spindles on which the electric motors spin, They're radio. They create huge vibrations, and they will wreck an ordinary concrete floor in short time, but they want the ones that are aged. So why were they discouraged from coming into Memphis? You see, why is something like what happened back in the 80s? Remember when they first did that Mud Island housing development? You had what's now the A.W. Willis Bridge going over there, and there was a right angle intersection with a stop sign there. Well, by law, the developer was supposed to donate part of his land on which to build roads or widen existing roads and pay for it. He didn't want to. He wanted the city to exercise eminent domain so that the city would pay him for what he would have had under the law to have donated, and the city pay for the road construction instead of him. And it was a corporation when I say him. Well, what the scam was is that that corner, just a short corner, about the size of one corner in somebody's living room, typical corner you see out on the street. He bought it from the city for $13,600. Why in the hell would somebody want to buy a corner with a street sign on it? Well, 90 days later, he sold that corner back to the city for $6.8 million. So it just looks like transactions. Nobody pays attention. There weren't computers in those days. And the $6.8 million is used to bribe the city councilmen or women who went along with it. And the city council recommended the exercise of eminent domain, which was exercised. He got paid for the taking of his property, and the city paid for the road construction. And the people that voted for it got a bribe that didn't even come from the developer. It was paid for by the citizens. See, that's how they do that. It's created. That's that thing with city parks. See, that's that thing with the downtown hotels. And then it's interesting, the hotel in question is saying there will be an 18.7% minority set aside, but the candidate, Young, is saying there's a 15% set aside. Is he already got 3.7% of the 200 plus million we've guaranteed to the city? I mean, to the hotels down there? Again, why financing a major international hotel chain? See, I think like this. I used to be a criminal defense lawyer. Before that, I was a prosecutor. You'd go help the detectives, or you'd go back check what the detectives are doing, play Perry Mason, etc. I look at these things. Well, I've been to trial fact. I'm looking at it. What am I looking at? That doesn't add. Wait a minute. What about this? Explain that.
That's just why we need you in the mayor's office. But I want to, Brother Samuel Hogan, you got to get out of here. But I want you to have a couple words, like closing thoughts.
Oh, please.
No, you good. You good, Samuel. Brother
Samuel. I have certainly appreciated the pleasure of getting to hear so many impressions today, Mr. Brown. It's been awesome. And I do wish you the best. I appreciate you bringing a lot of these issues behind the scenes to light. That's a lot of what I'm doing right now, just trying to make sure that the community who is capable of voting and using their voice is at least aware of some of these problems we're facing. And it sounds like you got your finger pretty well on the pulse of things here in Memphis.
Yeah, thank you. And see, you are a resource, both of you. But has anybody asked you to be on one of these committees that have all these people you've never heard of that don't have a damn clue as to what to do?
Yes, sir.
We have resources, and the problem is what's happening here in terms of the so-called command authority, the leadership at the top, somebody being in charge. It ain't there. So we don't get the people that are the resources that consist of the ballast of what this city can do for itself.
Right.
We don't get that put into play. We get people, oh, well, you know,
like I shared with Brother Ron, man, we just got to harness that grit and grind spirit we have. That's why I fell in love with the city of Memphis. That's why I still live here today. There's a lot of great community leaders and people working in their communities right now. They just aren't getting the attention they deserve. So I guess my closing remark to you, Mr. Judge Joe, would be let me know if you got anything for me. If you do,
Well, yeah,
you win the, you know what I'm saying, win office. Just let me know.
On a project I've got in mind to do something about 201 Poplar. See, we've got another thing. Juveniles get picked up. Ordinary people get picked up and they get transported to 201 Poplar. Innocent people get picked up. And I don't want them worrying about dying in that place more so than when they're out on the streets.
Yes.
See, that's ridiculous.
Yes,
That
sir.
is just embarrassing. That is just incompetence, and it needs to be cut off, and it does not need to be sitting in the mayor's seat.
Yes, sir. Well, I'll be in touch. I do got to run, got to head back to work. So y'all have a blessed day. And thank you again, Mr. Ron.
You too, brother. Thank you so much.
We'll be in touch as well. You have a good one.
All right. Take it easy, young
Yes,
man.
sir. You too.
Bye-bye.
So, Judge, how is it looking for you as far as the polls? I mean, what do you feel about
there are
your
no
chances?
polls. They've taken polls, but if the only people you talk to are down in those what used to be high-rise, well, not high-rise, but you know, the office buildings that have been converted to 5-unit condos down there now, or down in Cooper Young, you're not getting a realistic assessment of what's going on. I mean, they're talking about the fabulous four, or whatever it is, that only get invited by the news media, and they don't seem to care who wins as long as it's not me. There were some straw polls. I know one, I got 47% of the vote, about 4,600 votes out of the total, and Paul Young came in at 36%, which was 11 percentage points under me, and then it went down quickly from there. So they haven't really taken a poll. And the other thing is quite frankly, we have a problem that needs to be corrected by congressional legislation. The Democrats swore they were going to do it because they hold the Republicans responsible. But now that the script got flipped and they can take advantage of it, they aren't about to touch it. And that was back in the Reagan era. They changed the FCC rules so that one entity could not control communications in more than one venue. So we have the same people that control the commercial appeal, control Channel 3, half of Channel 5 effectively, and a good chunk of 13, 24, and 30, all with the same group. And quite frankly, that group and I have been at odds for a long, long time.
Yes, sir.
And a scion of that group used to work as a prosecutor in my courtroom. And I haven't been invited to most of this stuff. A couple of times I got invites and showed up and told I wasn't qualified, so I could sit in the audience and watch the more qualified people do their thing, which is you're serious.
Right.
I'm the one that graduated from UCLA, kind of close to the top there. And I had a bachelor's degree in political science, specializing in international relations and urban development. But I don't know anything about this. I've been next longest in government, in and out one way or the other in this whole group. I mean, Tom Bradley, I helped him get on his campaign when I was much younger. Harold Washington in Chicago. Let's see, Marion Barry in D.C. He's from Memphis. And let's see, A.C. Wharton was a law partner of mine. He's mayor here. Let's see, a vice president of the United States was a client of the law firm I was with. And I know him. When we run into each other, we speak, call each other by name. And he was a U.S. Senator too before that. And let's see, I know a couple of presidents of the United States. Met another vice president of the United States way back when. And I know U.S. senators, congressmen. I don't too well now because I don't like too many any of them these days, but I used to know some of them. I worked for a DC think tank as an intern years ago. It was called the Center for National Policy Review.
Mm.
And it was very interesting what we did. I also worked for HUD, Housing and Urban Development, in the educational section. I've been a school teacher, put myself through law school, teaching junior high and high school, playground director, scoutmaster. I was a teamster. Oh, that was 57 years ago. Still won. Once won, always won. I paid my dues for A.L.L. a couple of months ago. I get a pension through them. They collect residuals. I was shop steward for SAG-AFTRA, which is AFL-CIO, until they made me management with my show. So, yeah, I know how it works. I've dug ditches, loaded trucks, all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's surprising what the unions are not doing now. They really need to buck up, stand up, shut up, and put it up. You know, we used to get these things where when you were a union member, Teamsters, you go to these meetings and they'd have political figures or business figures, and they'd tell you about what's going on so you could learn and spread what you heard to your neighbors, friends, and associates. They don't do that now. I did work with the unions 30 years ago, 25 years ago. That's when I was bench. I set up apprentice programs with them. There was an initial reluctance to go along with dealing with people who had just gotten out of jail or were likely to go to jail if there were no intervention. And I said, hey, quit looking at it as competition. Look at it as an opportunity to get apprentices who will eventually become dues paying members of your union. Oh, yeah, light bulb blink. Wow, great idea. You see, things can be done if somebody wants to do it. Somebody said, that's like Batman. Yeah, why not? Turn the light on. Bat signs. Somebody needs to come because somebody needs to patrol the neighborhoods like I used to. I go out there and I'm Uncle Joe or Daddy Brown, Granddaddy Brown, you know. Man, you the only one standing stood up for us, man. My granddad was telling me about what you did for him, man. Thank you. So I'm older than I look, I guess, I've been told. But, you know, I still run a mile or two every day to try and stay in shape.
That's good. That's good.
Problems at one time, but I'm over that. Still breathing. Doctor says keep your numbers like you are. You'll be breathing for a long time. And the late Dr. Barbara Cooper, I've known her. I met her in 1974 on the Title I committee at the Board of Education. Went with her through the changes she used to talk about when she decided to go get her PhD and then run for office. Very, very impressive woman. Too bad she slipped and fell, and she's no longer with us as a consequence. But she came to me about 2.5 years ago and said, Joe, you got to run for mayor. So she set up my exploratory committee, and she was chairing the Zoom meetings we had regularly. And she said, beware of this big money. Do not take the big money. I said, Miss Barbara, you know I didn't do that. I got elected the 2 times I got elected as a state court judge. I hardly took in any because I burned up a whole lot of shoe leather. She said, I know you did. She said, but be careful. Don't accept this money from some of these people. They'll own your soul. Or you'll be compromised. So I haven't raised much money because somebody said, where are your signs? I said, I moved here 50 years ago, 2 months ago. Been here ever since. If I haven't done enough to make myself known by now, I don't deserve to be mayor. The only problem I'm having, I don't need name recognition. I'm one of the most famous people, Elvis included, to come out of here. Maybe not as famous as him, but before I quit this show, retired from it after 15 years, I was in a unit with Oprah Winfrey, Judge Judy, Dr. Phil. Me and Judy would tie, or one of the other of us would be in first place for being the #1 syndicated show in the country. CBS kept changing the ratings so she'd stay ahead of me.
I mean,
but
yeah.
people know me. So why do I need name recognition? But I'm going to say just one other thing on that. There is one problem. I can't badmouth him because he's a personal friend. It's Joe Brown, the former city councilman, the clerk, who has been sick for the last 3.5 years. And some of these low-down scoundrels, knowing good and well it's not me, have actually been putting his picture up as the candidate.
Right.
Now, my people out there at the early voting, they hold the sign up. That's the Judge Brown. That's Joe Brown running. So you can't put Judge Brown on the ballot. And by the way, anybody listening, the Joe Brown on the ballot, the only one on the ballot is Judge Joe Brown. And yes, thank you, young ladies. A bunch of them said, we didn't see Judge Joe Brown, so we checked in to write in and wrote Judge Joe Brown. They'll know who it is. Now, here's what it is. Let's take the damn town back. It should be the biggest and most powerful and lucrative and prosperous town in the United States. And right now, we've got a problem. One part of the town has one of the highest per capita incomes in the United States, and the other has one of the lowest. Tennessee is #4 in America in per capita millionaires. And what's going on is that a great number of those that make Tennessee the #4 in per capita millionaires are right here in Memphis, in East Memphis and Shelby County. Even they realize that if you keep one part of it down, because people have cars, you know, the thug can drive. So
Judge, make Memphis great again, all right. But I was saying, like, what's interesting about you brought up the unions, and I know organized labor has gotten behind Van Turner. And I asked a person that I really respect, I said, why y'all get behind him? I mean, what he's gonna do for y'all? I don't know, what has he done to earn that type of allegiance from organized labor?
That's Sidney Chisholm. That's Sidney Chisholm, whom the Teamsters at one time fired years ago. And the problem is Van Turner's up here working with Ford to make sure the unions get kept out of that Blue Oval plant.
What? That don't even make sense to me. What's wrong?
No, it
then
doesn't.
Also,
not one
also
damn
Judge.
bit of, as I told that interview committee, some person from Atlanta, some woman wanted to say, I don't think you're sufficiently sensitive to the rainbow community and trans. I said, look, that's their problem. I said, let me run something by you. I said, under the union rules, I'm the only one here from SAG-AFTRA. And frankly, I've been a union member longer than anybody here. I said, first time I joined the union was 1966. That's 57 years ago. I said, we have other problems. I don't hold them back. If they want to go for it, fine. But I'm talking about some other stuff. And by the way, I just got through paying union dues at the time, less than 30 days before that.
Right.
So I still pay my union dues. So you want to turn down an active union member in the mayor's office for somebody that's trying to keep your dumbasses out of the Ford Motor Company plant.
It don't make sense, man. I don't.
No.
Then also, Judge,
Maybe I
you talk
should
about crime.
have said that. I was intemperate. Some other guys laughed. I could hear them laughing.
I mean, but it's the truth. It's something about cognitive dissonance. It's like, it's weird. Like, people, we live in an alternate reality, even with the crime. Like, Memphis police officers told me the situation with the cars and smash and grabs. The problem is that the juveniles, they got a 19-point system that allows them 19 chances to do that type of stuff before any serious prosecution is allowed. So our juveniles got 19 times to break into your car before anything's done.
Well, you know, frankly, I dealt with that a lot when I was on the bench and as a lawyer. Now, we've got a new juvenile court judge who used to be the part-time PD in my courtroom for 10 years. I know him pretty well. I think he'll probably make some changes. The clowns they had in there before, I had no respect for. The one they had in from 1963 to 2006 was a fifth grade dropout. And the Supreme Court said he could not hear cases because of his educational deficiency. And that started this thing of hiring all these lawyers down there who are designated referees or magistrates. Now, the interesting thing is in Shelby County, for magistrates or referees for the criminal courts, circuit courts, chancery courts have to be unanimously approved by every one of these trial court judges. A general session, small claims city court judge gets to appoint all of the magistrates and referees he wants, and he is below the courts that have to have unanimous approval for every referee and magistrate. Now, they've had one or two good ones, and they've had some assholes. One of the worst is that clown they call Dirty Harry, Hal Horn. I tangled with him because this 55-year-old woman had a warrant out for her arrest. It was rubber stamped. No affidavit of complaint is required by Tennessee law. Nothing under oath. And the accusation was she was supposed to be the mother of somebody's child, daughter. He had never paid child support on a daughter. He had no name, no date of birth. And from the last time he saw her, the daughter would have been in her 30s anyway. And he had been her stalker. So when this clown said he had a golf game to go to, I went off on him. Now, they were also violating some orders of mine that I'd issued as a judge with the appellate jurisdiction over the place that was still in effect. And I'm not too happy with my appellate work by the lawyers that were handling the case, because it looks like they took a dive in the Supreme Court decision. Said although the judge raised this point, which appears to be valid, for some reason his lawyers did not brief the issue on appeal. I don't like that. Now, I got told, well, we're not like you. We can't afford to jeopardize our careers. Well, how the hell do you want to have a career if you don't take on Goliath?
Right.
But that's another thing. I felt honored to do that. I stood up for a woman, and most of these other folk out there don't have the balls to do stuff like that. They haven't done a damn thing. They've talked smack, but they haven't filed any civil rights cases. They didn't do what I did, which was my idea to start the Lorraine Motel on the process of becoming the Civil Rights Museum. It was my idea. Okay. They didn't file all those cases back when. It got stuff squared away for the black citizens of this county. They didn't participate in filing or drafting the briefs and the research that I did as a young lawyer for some of the old hands who filed the stuff. Say they talk a good game, but they've not done a damn thing except get stuff under the table. And what's the one talk about? He met his wife when they were 14. And
Van
they,
Turner, but I just it's just I
yeah,
met his people. I met one of his handlers from
hell, they
Atlanta.
got to do with a damn thing.
I mean, but people strange. But I met one of his handlers from Atlanta. They put the recent mayor who go by Andre, he go by Dre in office, and they'll tell me they plan for Van Turner. My thing is, we need somebody that's not gonna go along with business as usual. They're gonna upset the apple cart. Will be like Jesus in the temple and overturn the gaming tables. We need something different than we've been getting. And I know when I talk to people about you, a lot of them don't even know you was running. I mean, these some older people. Then a lot of them said, "Well, I'm gonna
The
vote for Judge
problem,
Joe.
they
I'm gonna
dog
vote for
black.
Judge Joe." Now the judge, they say I'm gonna vote because a lot of them were doing protest votes with Harrington. But my problem with Harrington is he quit. He's a quitter. I like Harrington, but he quit that fourth term, and it bothers me that he quit that fourth term. He wasted the people's time by running for office, knowing that he was going to quit. So with that said, I would say that you have definitely got a fighting chance in this thing because these people have a lot. They leave a lot to be desired, and you got a heart for Memphis. You got a plan and vision for Memphis, and I hope the people of Memphis will give you a chance to enact that vision that will be better for us than going along as business as usual. So, Judge, I'm about to wrap it up, but you have any closing thoughts and words you want to share with the people?
Hey, JJB in 2023 for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Send Brown downtown. Take back your town. It belongs to you. Do what you got to do. Send JJB in to be mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Now, you know, we're trying to make it known that I am running. So that's what the opposition's objective is to do a complete blackout so that isn't known, because if it's known, I win automatically. Hands down. It's time you had somebody who will stand up and talk straight up to the ones that need to be talked to. And if you want to know how I work stuff, hell, I was in your bedrooms, bathrooms, closets, kitchens for 15 damn years. You saw what I did. I didn't take anything off of anybody. I dealt with them straight up. I tried to know a little bit about the subject, if not a lot. And I listened to everybody, gave everybody a fair hearing. And when I saw somebody being a complete idiot, I let them know, you are an idiot. And I know how to run stuff. I've run large operations. I got trained in it. I know how to do it. So if you want to live in a city that you don't find yourself anxious to leave, scared to be in, or worried about how you're going to afford the airline fare to go visit your children or grandchildren, vote for me, because I'm the only one that can get it done. The rest of them are owned, they're bought, they're controlled, they're delivered. And you just told me of the plan that somebody in Atlanta is set up for somebody running for mayor of Memphis. See how crazy that sounds? They're owned. There you go.
A bunch of carpetbaggers,
Look,
man. Is it like
and
Atlanta? What's funny about Atlanta is that the people. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm not saying anything. You were breaking up.
Oh, Judge, he from.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I wasn't saying anything. You were.
Oh yeah, but I was saying with Atlanta, the difference between Atlanta and Memphis, because you look at 60 years ago, you have pizza in Dallas and Nashville, but 60 years later, Memphis is behind these people, and people talking about, well, Dr. King got killed in Memphis. Well, President Kennedy got killed in Dallas, and Dallas is booming. And it is poor. There's poor city management and planning, and leaving so many of us behind is ridiculous. And we like our own words on what should be going on. people accountable. I think it's very important that people give you a look, Judge. And like I said, when I tell people you was running and what you was about, they already know what you're about. They say, I'm gonna go and vote for Judge on the 5th. So I hope more people get hip to what's going on and stop letting these folks run us down into the ground. Sim Brown downtown.
All right, I'm out of here. Thank you, sir.
All right, Judge. Thank you so much. And that does it for this edition of We All Be. We got it done. It was weird, some tech difficulties, but we saw it through. And I'm glad for y'all to be sticking it out with yours truly, Brother Ron, also known as R2C2H2. And if you are in Memphis, if you are arrested to vote, please do yourself a duty, an obligation. You owe it to yourself to vote. You can vote for who you want to vote for. You can vote for your dog. You can write in Donald Trump if you want to, but just exercise your right to do so. Even if you don't want to vote, there's a vote as well, because this election leaves a lot to be desired. But what I would say this is that whatever you do, stop doing business as usual, because now's the time to do something different, to choose you, to choose your future over all the BS. What do we have to lose by trying something new or trying something different? That's all I'm asking people. Try something new and try something different and see what happens. But thank you so much. And let me include this disclaimer before I get out of here. Because like people get afraid, people come on my platform, they start talking, being themselves, they making that good money, they living comfortable, they eating lobster and steak and shrimp and all that good stuff. And then they, oh, Brother Ron, I said some things, and I said, man, you should speak for yourself. But this disclaimer will help you understand what this We All Be platform is all about and what it means to express yourself. Disclaimer: the views expressed by host and guests on the We All Be TV platform are not the official views, opinions, beliefs, or perspectives of We All Be News or the We All Be Group Incorporated. We All Be News is an organization that thoroughly believes in supplementing the information narrative that is usually supplied by the corporate news entities with those viewpoints and expressions which may be marginalized or ignored for a plethora of reasons. We are about informing the general public on alternative perspectives as it relates to news and information, and letting the general public be the ultimate judge in deciding on how to use said information. Informed citizens are responsible citizens. Thank you for your support. I want to thank you all for once again hanging out with yours truly and my people. This is Tree Dixie for man. Yes, you can. Can you dig it? Yes, you can. Can you dig it? Yes, you can. We all be in it to win it. Please support the movement. They demonetize me on YouTube, but I do this for the people. One love. You can cash out your support $ R2C2H2. Google Pay, PayPal, Zelle your support R2C2H2 at gmail.com. That's R2C2H2 at gmail.com. You can Vimo your support at R2C2H2. You can buy art of his art. You see my art. This is my artwork. I did that by me, by my hand. And you can buy that at R2C2H2 at gmail.com. I mean, excuse me, you buy that R2C2H2.com. That's R2C2H2.com. Like I said, they demonetized the channel. They've been removing videos and whatnot off the channel. They messing with the archives. They're trying to control the narrative, but I'm reclaiming the narrative. I'm reclaiming the archives. This too shall pass. It's time to shift into my rightful place in the stratosphere. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to get it done. But also, we got to save We All Be, because We All Be is just you and me. Century news free, baby. And so thank y'all once again for hanging out with yours truly. Let's play Get Like We All Be. How you gonna say we all be? Because we all be you and me. That's our baby. Can you see? You the father, I'm the father. You the mother, I'm the father. Right? See how it works. All right, let's get it. One love. We love you madly, in the words of Duke Ellington. and know that the best is yet to come. This is Brother Ron. One love.
Greetings, family. This is your brother, Brother Ron, requesting your help to help save We All Be. The feeder needs you all to feed We All Be. We All Be has been under attack due to heavy shut us down, but we won't give up, give in, or give out without a fight, because we all be in it to win it. Please think about donating to the cause. You can try Venmo, our Cash App, our PayPal options. You can support us through Patreon, patreon.com/weallbe. You can buy Artivist Art, r2c2h2.com. You can wear Artivist Art. Go to our Teespring, r2c2h2's place. We all be in it to win it. Know that the best is yet to come. And thank you all for your continued support. We love you madly. And please also remember, family, if you want to keep up with all things We All Be, please join our mail list. You could email yours truly, Brother Ron, at weallbe@gmail.com. Once again, that's weallbe@gmail.com to keep up with what's going on with We All Be. Remember, information is power, and knowledge is the currency of the universe. But please, feed We All Be so that the feeder can keep on feeding the people. One love. Can you dig it? I sure can. Amplify blessings, amplify blessings, amplify blessings, and thank you. Thank you. Thank you. See how it works? Somewhere. And please remember and never forget that we love you madly.